before, hasn't it? Fact that we have that extra pit lane on the way towards the final corner being used by TSS for the racing at Sepang, but the rest of the field forming up on the grid here. We're unclear as to whether or not the number 38 entry is going to make its way back out onto the circuit in time for the race start, but you see they do have wet tyres on hand just in case, and it's a typical Malaysian spring day out there with overcast skies and the ever-present threat of rain, especially as the afternoon continues on.
Yeah, indeed. Teams have had to keep the wet tyres on hand just in case. I did see in the background, I think, coming through the sectors 2 and 3, and presumably not too far away now, our pole sitting car number 38. So just do a quick trip via pit lane, but now all should be well. And I did see a second Trans Am Mustang circulating around earlier, which is good to see. We will have the 5 cars that are on timing, all taking to the start today. After we didn't see the number 35 of Chembi Dulmaz in his Eternal Monster Racing Trans Am Mustang out on track. So there's your pole sitter of Akarapong making it around the final turn here. And means that we are going to have, by the looks of things, all of our 5 drivers on timing. Starting this one here, unfortunately, Reese, we did have a 6th driver registered on the entry lists. The second of the Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand Toyota Supras, the number 37 machine, unfortunately, for Manat Kulapanont, leading the championship in this series, not able to take to the starting grid yesterday, and it would appear today as well.
Yeah, shame not to see him out there today, and that'll be a big hit to his championship standings. But we're going to a look around Sepang at the moment, a classic circuit for those of you that have been watching Formula One since the 1990s. A lot of challenge around this place as well. Particular point of contention is going to be turn 4, the tight right-hander going uphill on the way to the very fast turns 5 and 6, a giant S-bend that takes up the majority of the tyre usage on the lap here. Of course, tyres aren't going to be a big point of contention in this race, just mainly because it's going to be so short. But we should see some great potential for some big moves out here today. Now, is that the 38 car? It is. Looks like Akaninarot has made his way back out of the pits. Not sure why he toured through. Maybe just some final checks from the team, but he's up on the grid at the moment. So for the time being, looks like we're going to get all 5 cars on the grid ready to start the race.
Yeah, good to see that indeed. There were some final discussions there with team members as well. For good measure, but he's strapped in, so usually that is all good sign. That looks like a fairly calm, happy face there on the man behind the wheel of the number 38 today. And I'll be curious to see how the racing goes. This race from this category yesterday, Reese, it was Akarapong lights the flag, but was challenged into turn 1 on lap 1 by Damien Hamilton, but able to outbrake the Trans Am Mustang to his left on, and therefore on our right-hand side of the screen here. And there was a bit of back and forth there at some point, so we'll have to see if Damien can maybe get a slightly better jump once again, as you've got maybe a tiny bit more ability to run into turn 1 and perhaps might be able to come out the other side in the lead. We'll have to see, or whether it comes down to challenging later on in the race once again if he can keep the tyres underneath him. Because as you mentioned, whilst the tyres shouldn't be too much of an issue, Reese, we did see a bit of tyre or pace drop off even over the course of a 10-lap sprint. So that will be something to keep an eye out, I think, here today as well.
Yeah, particularly in the more powerful cars like the Mustang TA2 and the Lamborghini Super Trofeo there on the left-hand side of the grid. Got a Nissan GTR on the grid as well. It's been a while since I've seen a GTR out there racing in competition. I remember attending the Bathurst 12 Hour some years ago and seeing the fantastic run that Florian Strauss and the like had in the GT3 GTR over the top of the mountain. But this R35 looking quite interesting for the time being, starting, I believe, in 4th position in the number 50. So we'll see what he can do from from what is a very small field, as we said, but plenty of potential for great racing here, with plenty of heavy braking zones around Sepang. This is the number 50. This is the car starting in 4th place. Got my cars confused for a second there. Sorry about that. But Manasseh Manuel Caceres, hailing from the Philippines, in the only mid-engine car in the field. And with the balance of performance being the way it is, the cars should be relatively equal on pace, but I think there's a big advantage to driving a mid-engine car around a circuit like this. It was built for Formula One, of course. Lots of fast and flowing corners, which you need good rotation through. And the final corner in particular is going to be interesting because, as we've mentioned multiple times, recently modified a few years ago to have a negative camber throughout the corner. So you need a car that's good on turn-in and rotating mid-corner out here.
Yeah, it is unique in a sense that, I mean, yeah, well, originally wasn't the case, but the fact that, yeah, modifying the track to more suit the fact that the premier racing series these days here at Sepang is, of course, the MotoGP World Championship. So the ability to allow the riders to get as much confidence through that final turn there is valuable. As you see here, Cem Yılmaz getting his helmet and all parts of his safety gear sorted out, but being told apparently lost a glove. So he's looking to try and track down that, because you will need that. You can see actually having to refit padding in the helmet as well. So that's going to be a little bit of a scramble to do, because they should be pulling away from the grid in about 4 to 5 minutes or so. So not long left to get himself all ready to go in that sense.
Yeah, of course. You know, if you're a racing driver, you need to have all of your appropriate safety gear sorted. And if he ends up having to start the race without a glove, well, he might not start the race at all. And at the very least, would be resulting in a hefty penalty from the stewards. So hopefully, Tim can find his glove. But it looks like we're getting personnel being cleared off the grid now. And we're waiting for the final few moments before we get this race started. Couple of final photo opportunities before we get things started for this race.
We will indeed. Standard countdown procedure here will mean that, yeah, a couple of minutes here for the last couple of people to be on the grid, and then at the 1 minute mark it'll be all personnel clear of the grid and time to start up the engines of our drivers here for this one. And then eventually, yeah, roll out. Looks like we have a 3 minute board there still to go up in a moment, so that'll mean still a bit more time for final photos, last couple of people to clear out, and then we'll be able to get away. Is there, yeah, indeed, the 3 minute board up now. So it gives you an idea if you're not far away and on schedule for the start of the formation lap and the race start in due course. And yeah, look forward to seeing how we go about it here once again, because it was, I think the main thing is, while the race did fan out yesterday, Reese, the run to turn one will be interesting to watch. I think that could also be interesting as to how that changes the way things play out in the opening laps, as to whether maybe the order will be a little disrupted by a good run to turn one from, say, the Trans Am cars, if they can then also get on the brakes with some confidence down there, perhaps.
Yeah. The formation lap's going to be a good opportunity for the drivers to see just how much grip is available out there. Though, looking at the exit of the final corner there in the background of that shot, I noticed plenty of rubber has been laid down on the circuit. But you look very closely at the grains of the tarmac here underneath the Supra. Sepang seems to be a pretty rough circuit, and so I think that goes some way to explaining why tyres ended up falling off over the 10-lap race yesterday. This track obviously has a very rough surface that tears up the tyres. It's been a bit since Sepang had a resurface, so another challenge of many for the drivers to overcome.
That would be a good point to note there, indeed. Yeah. I mean, the way I see it, the Hankook tyres they run in this series, they've got good pace potential, but they also punish you for overdriving them, and you'll fade away in due course. So it's a delicate balance you have to manage in terms of making sure you're fast, but you're not wasting or not ruining the tyre for the later laps. Haven't seen too many issues in that respect. It just certainly is it's a possibility on the horizon to keep in mind here, as we're not too far away from the start of the engines.
Yeah. There's the horn, there's the board, and well, now we just wait with bated breath See how this formation lap goes, whether or not the drivers will be able to get all their cars warmed up in time. Should be plenty of time to do it. Despite it being overcast, it is usually very humid and warm in Malaysia at this time of the year. So, last few track personnel, team personnel, marshals being cleared off the grid, and now it's just the cars. The safety car and the medical car in the middle of the straight with our 5 starters getting ready for the run up to turn 1 at a reduced pace. And I'll be able to suss out what the conditions are like here at Sepang International Circuit. I've been looking at the weather radar, and it doesn't look like there's rain anywhere near the circuit for the time being as the safety car pulls away. Just waiting on the number 38 to get going too. Green flag flying, and we are away for our formation lap. Yeah, it looks like the race is going to be dry all the way through from what I can see, but you never know. Could be some big changes that happen later on.
I mean, yeah, the radar footage we've seen as part of the broadcast this weekend, it sort of threatens, and it can come from any direction pretty much, it seems, at this place. And the main thing actually has been this weekend, when the track has been declared wet, it's been race control declaring the track wet before we see any rain on the production feed that we then present to you guys watching us, whether it be with Thailand Super Series or with speedcafe.com. So that is generally sort of the first clue that something's up. Until, mind you, last night it was very nice. We had the ability to look up through the lighting towers here at the circus. We were under the lights by that time of the day, and therefore reliant on that. So here are your 5 starters for GTC Race 6 of the 2024 Championship. Akarapong on pole position once again with Damien Hamilton to his outside as they were yesterday. And then same road 2 as well with Manuel Rafael Caceres and Manasa Manuel Caceres in 3rd and 4th respectively. And the addition today of Chembi Dulmaz to the rear of the grid after not making it out on track yesterday, which was a shame to see. So those are your 5 starters, and hopefully they'll be our 5 finishers as well once they come to meet the checkered flag in about 20 or so minutes time after the 10 laps are all done and dusted here.
Yeah, making their way through turns 6 and 7 at the moment. A very challenging sequence of corners this, especially in closed wheel cars. They require precision, they require you to keep the mid-corner speed up and basically treat those 2 kinks like one separate corner. And the exit is incredibly important coming down here to the hairpin. It's a difficult corner to get right at the best of times, but it's one of the prime overtaking opportunities on this circuit. The other overtaking opportunities will be at the final corner and the first corner, as well as turn 4. But the question is, considering Akarapong's pace yesterday, will he have any challenge at all coming off this first lap? He's the one who's going to have the advantage off the start here. He'll be able to control the start properly once the all clear is given by race control, and it's up to everyone else to catch him up.
In some respects, yes, but also they will hold till the lights are extinguished on the gantry on the start-finish straight. So we'll keep that in mind, that it really is a chance for the drivers in behind. If they do react to the lights a little better, Reece, they can make the jump and therefore the run towards turn 1 and challenge for the lead in that respect. But looks like tyre warming and preparation is now over, so it's going to be now down to how much they've got in the tyres and the brakes and how much they cool off here with this long run back down the run to turn 14, or sorry, off turn 14 I should say, to turn 15. So plenty of time for the cars to cool back off before you then actually properly go at speed out of turn 15 to the start-finish straight, of course, as we sail past the southern pit complex there on the secondary straight. Then we around this turn 15 hairpin, the final formation lap of the weekend here at the Sepang International Circuit. And it's time for race 6 of the Super Series Supercar GTC to get ready as we wait for the 5 lights to go out on the gantry. And we are green here at Sepang. And we watch for the Nissan GTR of Manuel Rafael Caceres already getting the jump to the inside of Akarapong. He will lead the field to turn 1 as Damien Hamilton gets the power up in the 88 Trans Am Mustang, and he will go to second place, although inside is open for Akarapong to take back. but a unique race leader that we haven't seen yet this weekend, let alone this season, I do believe, Reese. The number 95 Nissan GTR R35 will lead the field through turns 1 and 2 here on the opening lap.
That was a brilliant getaway from Caceres there, and taking full advantage of the power of the Nissan GTR off the start, and it looks like he's just extending the gap a tiny bit on the straights here. Karapong still getting harassed for second, but he'll be able to take the lead back there at turn 4. It looked like Caceres ran wide through that corner, and there's also been a slight change behind as well. Seems like Damian Hamilton finding his way into third spot and now is harassing the back of Caceres there.
Yeah, we'll see here. Caceres, unfortunately, didn't have the pace to go with Karapong or Hamilton in yesterday's race, and as a result, it would appear on this opening lap, the Supra really does fire up its tyres, and with that, Karapong's confidence and knowledge of the circuit does shine through relative to his competitors here, although those Trans Am cars were faster in several sectors, and the door is open wide at turn 9 for Damian Hamilton to go up the inside, but he's in deep. And the door will be open on exit for Caceres to over-under him here, although it's almost side-by-side to turn 10, but the GTR will be back out in front to second place again, after now fending off a challenge halfway around the lap.
Yeah, Hamilton very aggressive on the brakes there, and you also see that Cem Yilmaz is trying to make his way through in the second of the Mustangs that are here at Sepang today. Catching up just a little bit in the braking zone here. I think Hamilton will have learned from that. Maybe the brakes weren't quite as warm as he needed them to be, but he knows that he'll be able to make his way past Caceres if he's able to line up the move, and this is an opportunity for him here. Brilliant lead for Karapong Akaninarot there, and well, he's going to make sure that he stays there as everyone tries their best to not slither their way through this final corner. Get the exit right, run over the curb, maybe a little bit too far over the curb there for Yilmaz, but this is a lovely little battle for second as lap 1 concludes.
Indeed, and the gap 1.4 seconds across the start-finish line, but that has closed up nicely there. So it really does show you that Nissan GTR has got some good pace in a straight line. It's just whether Manuel Caceres has got the tyres, the car underneath him, to be able to maintain the speed through the corners and the brakes. As we know, the Trans Am cars similarly can match for straight line power and performance as they'll come up through the Sector 1 timing beacon in the apex at turn 3, I believe it is. And on that lap there, it'll be ever so slightly advantage Manuel Rafael Caceres for the first sector once again over your race leader in Karapong Akaninarot in that Toyota Supra as they get this first full flying lap at racing pace on its way.
Yeah, it looks like sectors 2 and 3, of course, the timing sectors are set up for MotoGP, which uses 4 timing sectors over the full lap, so that's what we're dealing with here. For the time being, the Supra looks stronger in sectors 2 and 3, but oh dear, that is very deep there for Manuel Rafael Caceres, and oh, there's some fire coming out of the brakes as well. That is a massive problem there for the man who was running in second spot here. It's beached in the gravel. The car is completely dead, it seems. I'm not too sure what's happened there. He's out of the car. He's out.
Oh, man, he doesn't really know, too. In fact,
oh, man.
Something happened. Just as we switched to him there, something came out from the rear of the car. Some kind of smoke or fluid. Look at it here on the slow motion replay. Yeah, look at that, boom. Yeah, big failure from the drivetrain, I would suspect, unfortunately, there. And it's completely maybe dropped oil straight onto the tyres. And as a result, he's lost all grip, flown straight across the line. And that just, actually have the exhaust pipes that sit right behind the front wheel arches, Reese. And so as a result, it's belched a bit of fire. And as a result, thankfully, he's out and away from the car without any issues, but it will mean safety car will have to come out whilst they retrieve him from the gravel there at turn 7. And oh man, that is a man with a head in his hands. The despair there.
For him. I really do. You know, he was on for a fantastic result. He was holding off the Mustangs nicely, and his car just failed him. You know, and I really sympathise. You know, his head in his hands, and you know, obviously he'll be able to he'll be able to have further chances later on in the year, but for now, his weekend at Sepang is over, and it only lasted a couple of laps there for Manuel Rafael Caceres. I'm interested to know exactly what failed on the car there. I think maybe it might have been the gearbox potentially, or just the engine going pop on the downshift potentially. I mean, I'm just speculating, but regardless, it was a major failure that resulted in the car not being able to make it back to the pits under its own power.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're unlikely to get, well, not we won't, but we're unlikely to get an exact answer as to what's failed there on the 95 Nissan GTR, which is a shame because it looked solid, maybe not spectacular yesterday, but nevertheless seemed to be in perfectly good working order. But it will mean now one Supra versus two Trans-Ams, and got to go through the whole restart procedure once again and allow these Ford Mustang shelled machines to have another crack at the rear end of that Supra off a restart as well. Now, obviously being a restart this time around, Akarapong will have control of when they jump, unlike with the race start where he's got to hold for the lights. So that will mean it'll be probably a little bit less under pressure into turn one, you would think, unless something happens on the run to turn one that allows those cars behind to get a good run in the slipstream and just cleanly up towards that first corner. As our four cars that are still remaining in this race now navigate their way past the stricken number 95, which, as we can see in the background, I think he has been recovered, or at least is in the process of being recovered pretty promptly here. So given the length of the lap, probably going to need another lap under safety car just to make sure they're clear. But if they go slow enough, Reese, we might be back racing here right at the very end of this lap if they deem it all set and sorted.
Yeah, it looks like it was well on its way to the opening in the wall to get the car fully off the circuit. So, yeah, hopefully we'll go racing again at the end of this lap. I think that incident has also given a good opportunity to Manasseh Manuel Caceres, who was running plumb last and was quite a ways off the rest of the field when by the time Manuel had his issue. So you never know, might be able to mix it with the Mustangs if you can get the pace up in that Lamborghini. But Cem Yilmaz will certainly be happy with the race that he's had so far, managing to, after starting dead last, find his way up into a podium position. Of course, as a racer, you don't always want to take positions thanks to the other car having an issue entirely out of their control, but he is solidly in a top three, and he'll find his way into the battle for second with Damian Hamilton already getting the tyres warmed up again here behind the safety car. And the lights are still on, so I get the feeling we're going to stay out for another lap here.
Yeah, just maybe a tiniest bit too late to be able to safely restart this one here. So it will mean it'll be 6 laps to go at the conclusion of this safety car period, as we are currently on lap 3 of the race. The timing, of course, on your screens here will update at the end of every lap. So those times there will change in due course. Unfortunately, it'll just mean for the 95, of course, they'll keep going lap after lap down there. And interesting note here that actually the previous lap was 2 minute 26, as that was the fast lap. As timing will update here shortly as they cross the line. Because, of course, timing does continue on, even under safety car conditions. And get to see here what the safety car lap speed is like. Timing line is just there, I should say, as top 2, 3 go through, and in the second it'll be 4. Lapping over 4 minutes at the safety car speed, and as a result, plenty of tyre weaving, or plenty of weaving for the tyres, will be on the cards, it seems, to help try and get these cars in as best condition as they can be for a restart after cruising around for a bit.
Yeah, it was a very short green flag run before the incident for Manuel Rafael. So they didn't have much time to really get the juices flowing, so to speak, which is a very important part of driving a race car. Even in a short race, you want to make sure that your oil temperature and your water temperature are up to optimal levels. It's not just the tires that need to be warmed up. in a race car for maximum performance. So all this time spent just running at low speed behind the safety car, there is potential for maybe even overheating of the oil, depending on how they have the radiators set up. So, you know, dipping out from behind the motorway style single file of the field under safety car, probably a good thing to do, even in a short race like this.
Yes, that's a good point to make there indeed. Well, as they come round turns 5 and 6, it looks like we do have some good news to report, which is, of course, that now as they come around, we should see no cars in the gravel. So that means that what we're going to have here is lights going out on that Hankook safety car shortly, and the fact that we'll be going back to a restart on this lap right here. So chance for all 4 of our cars, although based on the pace I saw yesterday and the pace that we could see from lap 1 here today, I would suspect it'll be 3 cars with maybe a chance, and even then it will take quite something for the 2 Trans Am Mustangs to catch the Toyota Supra once we go back green. I would suggest, based on yesterday's pace. Unfortunately, that Lamborghini Gallardo of Manasseh Manuel Caceres certainly looks good, sounds pretty good. Unfortunately, not super quick around here relative to the other cars on track in this category.
Yeah, it seems like the advantage in the corners is with the Supra, and the advantage down the straights will now fall to the Mustangs now that we've lost our Nissan GTR, who was far and away the star in a straight line. I'm still really bummed actually about Manuel Rafael Caceres' retirement, because considering the straight line speed he had, he was making up so much time in sectors 1 and 4, and we could have had a really close race up the front if Akarapong wasn't able to get away. But the safety car is pulling away now, and it will be a Supra versus 2 Mustangs when we get to the restart of this race. You never know, something else might go wrong. That's the beauty of motorsport. It is inherently chaotic. It's controlled, engineered chaos. And we're about to get it done here as Akarapong, it looks like, has already gotten up to speed.
Yeah, you can see plenty of margin to the safety car ahead. Means he can drop the hammer halfway down the southern straightaway here into turn 15. Actually caught Damien Hamilton napping there, which means it's an easy run through the final corner back to the green flags on the start-finish straight. And there is going to be no pressure into turn 1, where perhaps he would be at biggest risk. Although, look at the straight line there of the 88 machine, just absolutely hoovering up the margin. Although we should see once again Hamilton starts getting on the brakes there a little bit earlier as a result of all that extra pace. Now, I thought for a second it was a little deep from Akarapong. Nope, that was just making sure a later apex at turn 1 to hold it tight and open up the entry into turn number 2.
Yep, beautiful sequence of opening turns here at Sepang. Effectively a double hairpin. Very difficult to get the line right. You have to wind on all of the lock for turn 2. But then you get back on the power on the way up to turn 4. Turn 3 is pretty much flat out in any car that you like. And looks like they're starting to leave Chemya Dulmaz in the dust, to say nothing of Manasseh Manuel Caceres in the Gallardo there. He's keeping it nice and smooth and controlled. I think he just wants to look after the car for the time being. But we'll turn our attention back to the race lead here, and you see how hard Akarapong is working that number 38 Supra. He's making those minor adjustments to the steering in the middle of the turns. He's looking confident, he's looking controlled, and he's going to extend this lead.
He should do indeed, yeah, in the second sector from turn 3 through to about exit of turn 6. Picked up a couple of tens on Damien Hamilton, where the twisty parts of this track, but also the ability to brake later into the turn 4 90-degree right-hander are all very valuable to the lap time of this Supra relative to the cars behind. Trans Am's, obviously their great strength is power, but it does mean it does come at the cost of needing to jump on the anchors a bit earlier to make sure they pull it up for the turns, and that all in all ends up being very much advantage the lighter, nimbler cars that can brake later as a result. And once again, sector 3 will show that quite confidently so, with another 0.6 pulled in favour of the 38 here on screen. As they make the run down towards turn 14, and the next chance for the Trans Ams to stretch their legs and try and make a bit of a dent in the margin here. As you see different lines into the final corner, Karapong going for a more traditional wide entry. Hamilton starting to angle in there and use that negative camber to help in some sense. And as a result, works out pretty wide, say, through that corner there as the margin will update across the line. And it's back at 2.2 seconds after that restart there.
All right, so now the aim is to get into the rhythm and just hope that we don't see any further incidents like we saw with the GTR. I'm interested to note that Damian Hamilton is he's not really making an arc out of turn 1, is he? Once he gets on the brakes, he's just going straight for the inside there. Obviously working out that that's probably the best line for him to take, but geometrically doesn't look like it's going to be working out compared to the Supra. And look at the way it squats under the brakes. It's just beautiful to see a Karapong strutting his stuff out the front there.
What you note there is actually we can see on the track as these, like the Trans Ams in particular, as they jump on the anchors, you just see a little micro locking, I think it is actually, as they try and get the cars pulled up. Or that's because of ABS systems they're allowed to run in these cars, intervening to stop the tyres from locking up. But definitely saw it on the 35 there. I think I also saw it in the 88 machine as well. They were going into turn 4 there. We're working on the brakes there. So that would imply they're not leaving much to spare on the braking zone, and just shows the disparity in where these cars have their strengths and, as a result, weaknesses then.
Yeah, it looks like Tim Yilmaz here has been losing out quite a bit on this lap. In fact, looked like Damian Hamilton made up a 1/10 of a second on the Karapong up the front. Then in Sector 2, ended up losing that 1/10 right back. So I think, if these cars were a little closer together up the front of the field, we might be seeing a fantastic race. But for the time being, looks like all they got to do is hold station. But I think what we can tell from all of that is Damian Hamilton is, now that we've had a lap or so to get up to speed, he's matching a Karapong up the front.
Yeah, the ebb and flow here of Sepang between that Supra and the Mustang. The button thing is going to be Sector 4, which is because Sector 4 is basically, they come out of the left 90-degree left at turn 12, the double right of 13 and 14, then it's straight away, hairpin, start up the straightaway again. So Sectors 1 and 4 is where we need to see that much. Let's watch here for the gaps. It was 2.2 seconds, and in the last sector, Damian Hamilton pulls 0.3 of a second to get it back under to 1.9 seconds. So watch out for that there. Just a couple of laps where if he can stay close in the middle 2 sectors, he can then pull back time naturally with the advantages of his car. But through Sector 1 there, that looks the car with that line he's taking in, and maybe the speeds he's trying to carry there through turn 2 as well. It's struggling to get rotated in, which will be compromising the run out. And as a result, Sector 1 on this particular lap as they come through turn 3, slight, but in favour of the 38 of a Karapong here, which will mean that margin will probably go up at the end of this lap.
Yeah, it was only about 0.03 of a second difference, 200ths even, between the two of them. So we'll have to wait and see how that one works out. Looks like Tim Yilmaz is just minding his own business. He's got a top 3 in hand, and he's managing to keep himself nicely in there with no pressure from behind from the second of the 2 Cacereses that are in this race today. I'm always interested to see the, I guess, the matchup between many different car types in this GTC category. I mean, you've got the Toyota Supra up the front. It's I'd say, it does have plenty of racing components, but it's still very closely related to the Supra road car, at least in terms of body shell. But those TA2 Mustangs, they are a tube frame chassis, purpose-built silhouette race car with a big V8 engine under the bonnet. So they drive incredibly differently. They make up their pace in a lot of different ways around a circuit like this, which has plenty of variety.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, actually, having dug into some of the championship standings documents a little further yesterday, Reese, the Supras, which we've only got one of them out here on track today. We usually would see a second Supra out there, slightly different body kit and stuff, actually are specifically classified as non-homologated and share that non-homologation status with the 95 Nissan GTR. Whereas, of course, Trans Am car being built to specification. Likewise, that Lamborghini Gallardo is an older car, but it is still built to Lamborghini's Super Trofeo specification and maintained, I believe, as such. Running in this category here as another lap down, just 3 to go. And once again, Damien Hamilton, unfortunately, has lost time. And now the gap up over 3 seconds for Cem Yilmaz. I think, unfortunately for Cem, one of the issues he's got is mainly the fact that no race yesterday and no qualifying yesterday either would probably suggest maybe a little bit down on just basically time in the seat around the track. And as a result, therefore, missing the critical factor of the track experience this weekend.
Yeah, in the world of motorsport, track time is everything. The more you can get, the more successful you'll likely be. Karapong now in the lead of the race, and well, he's continuing to extend that lead, running about 2 seconds slower than his fastest lap, but he's certainly got very little pressure from behind. Damien Hamilton is still holding strong on to second, but an advance towards the lead, I think, is a very slim possibility if it even exists at all. And have a look at the gap that Hamilton's gotten over Yilmaz, nearly 13 seconds. So, man, he has absolutely nothing to worry about there. And Yilmaz, well, he's safe in third, 45 seconds back to Manasseh Manuel Caceres.
Yeah, that is true. Well, actually noting that despite what it said there about Karapong's last lap being in the 220s, timing shows that his last lap was his best lap of a 218.5. Which also is now the fastest lap of the race and has 2 purple sectors on this current lap to go with. So that's been a little quirk of the broadcast overlays we were working with this weekend, it seems there is. So when they don't go off last lap necessarily, sometimes you have to go off the best lap. And as a result, I just often go off the timing software as we watch into the final turn for Karapong. He'll have 2 laps to go already in this one. It seems to have flown by in many respects, thanks to that safety car, even with the safety car period, I should say, slowing things down. I think that 2 board is a little indicative of what's coming up here shortly. It was a 2:18.607. He lost all of 3/100ths of a second, and as you can see actually there. So that last lap is actually the lap before the one he just completed, but it now lines up with the best lap, therefore, because it was one and the same back on lap number 7 of the race.
Well, the gap is extended by a further second and then some. 4.3 now the gap, and there's not much to stop Karapong here as he makes his way up to turn 4. Hamilton would have to either pull out something spectacular in these last 2 laps or hope for a mistake or a technical problem for Akinnerot on the final couple of laps. A 2:19.6, the best lap for Mr. Hamilton there, and he ran 0.2 slower than that on the previous lap. So all things considered, the Mustang will be running about a second slower than the Supra on ultimate pace. At least that's what it seems like from what we can see.
Yeah, not far off, but all the same, it's unfortunately not going to be enough as the tyres come into the prime, it seems, for Karapong relative to the 88 machine of Hamilton here in comparison. As on this current lap, does pick back some time, so starting to get pace back in Sector 1 relative to the Supra, but continuing to lose 0.3 in Sector 2, and actually coming up towards Sector 3, Karapong flashes through that timing beam there in between turns 12 and 13 is a 40.9 for the third sector of 4 in this lap, and it's a 41.6 for Hamilton. So that now really should have showing where the deficit lies around this circuit in particular. As we hear what I believe would be a flat 6 of some kind there under the bonnet, possibly even a modified production engine, perhaps, for the 38 machine. But around turn 15, Karapong, Akinnerot will come, and he will see a final lap board awaiting him there at the start-finish line. So only 5.5 kilometres of racing left for the weekend here at Sepang to round out the action that we've seen here in August and September for this championship here for the Super Series by B-Quik. And ticks off turn 1 race and turn 2 to come here in just a fraction and tick that one off in short order as well.
Yep, keeping it nice and stable over the curbs when he has been hitting them. I think car preservation is largely the goal. The only curbs that we've seen the drivers using are the wide, flat exit curbs for the most part. I think turn 4 at least you'd want to take a little bit of the curb for the optimum line through, but look at that gap. I mean, Akarapong Akinirot is untouchable in terms of outright pace here, and Cem Yılmaz continuing to find his way around here, and well, struggling a little bit through turn 3 there. Potentially the V8 the Mustang putting a bit too much power down for the rear tires to handle, and I think potentially one of the things that we have to consider is, you mentioned tire wear. There's quite a bit of it at hand around this circuit, more than we expected, so maybe the Trans Am Mustangs are starting to run out of steam on that front.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think I haven't seen much of it since that lap, but I was looking at the tyre tracks into turn 4, but just wondering if potentially the continued notes there that there's a bit of a tyre locking happening for the, at least it's locking, unlocking with ABS, as we see there. Manasseh Manuel Caceres just crossed the start finish, trying to start his final lap. Your race leader, on the other hand, already entering turns 13 and 14, nearly 5 kilometres up the road by comparison there. Actually, there's just one corner now for Akarapong Akinirot to round, and this will actually mean I've got my orders around the wrong way. The 38 has been our championship leader this season, the 37 of Manat Kulapanot, sister car from Toyota Gazoo in Thailand. Unfortunately, we'll drop further down the standings into the mid-pack as a result, but turn 15 rounded, Reese, and a short run to the start-finish line, and the checkered flag awaits Akarapong. He'll make it 2 races from 2 once again here in TSS Supercar GTC. Damien Hamilton will have to settle for a pair of seconds there to round out the weekend, but nevertheless, a good showing from the CRE Lanatech Liquid Quality Racing Trans Am Mustang, and good to see Cem Yılmaz able to make it through a full race here after not seeing him out on track yesterday. Unfortunately, it would suggest that the lack of track time yesterday to dial in the Turtle Monster Garage Mustang might have played its part, that, or even may mean to play it safe too. Either way, podium finish on the Sunday for the 35.
Yeah, Cem will be happy with that after the frantic mad dash for one of his gloves just before the race, and long way behind Manasseh Manuel Caceres, just not able to match the pace of the top 3 today, but he will be granted an extra position due to Manuel Caceres unfortunately retiring due to a technical failure of some kind on the car. He will make it through in 4th spot, but man, what a drive it has been from Akarapong this weekend. That Toyota Supra has been untouchable. Beautiful stuff. And Damien Hamilton, I think, will be very happy. The only Australian in the field managing to nab a 2nd place finish here in race 2.
Yeah, indeed. And the fact it's been, I think, 2nd basically all weekend long in terms of session results. So that is just looking for a little bit extra pace in this car over the course of 1 lap and a run. There's 1 corner left, it would appear, for Manasseh Manuel Caceres here. Indeed, that is the approach to turn 15 for the number 50 machine from the CNC Motorsports and KS Racing squad. Brings it round, no issues there. And now open the hammers and see that checkered flag there at the start-finish line, good sir. And complete the race in 4th place and give us our final race results here in TSS Supercar GTC, or I should say provisional, because for all we know, something might happen in the race. I mean, we didn't have any issues as far as I noticed with results this weekend. We did have a note from the stewards from the GT3, GTM, GT4 race that one of the cars in that category had to receive a 10,000 Thai baht fine for a lack of functioning judicial camera, but that was looks like apparently just a minor procedural transgression, which therefore didn't affect the race result there. But nevertheless, there we are. All our drivers who have made the checkered flag are across the line, and therefore we simply await the results on screen and a brief set of highlights potentially to talk about, which unfortunately will predominantly feature probably Manuel Rafael Caceres' car going up in quite literal smoke there on lap 2.
Yeah, indeed. Well, that's going to conclude runnings here from Sepang, and looking forward to the final rounds of the Super Series by B-Quik this 2024 season. It's been very exciting. I'm really glad to have been part of the broadcast this year, first coming on back at Bangsan and having a whale of a time. I'm looking forward to the conclusion in the coming months.
Indeed, it is one of the things that we actually are now going to be off air for several months due to the way the schedule works out. Friday the 13th through Sunday the 15th of December. Event 5 of the season for our GT categories. Event 4 of the season for our pickup, compact and eco categories. And that will be a chance for all of our drivers and teams to run their final races of the season and challenge for championships where they are so eligible to do so. And for our drivers who are leading championships coming into those races to consolidate and potentially win their championships nice and early there indeed, as drivers have made it back to the start-finish line and they're able to now jump out of the car. And basically we'll just wait to see if there'll be anything we get to hear here at the end of the day, Reese. Because, I mean, from now we basically go radio silent for 3 months. It's something we're not used to in a conventional racing schedule in many respects, but I guess it's part and parcel of the way racing in this part of the world, weather-wise, we suspect potentially also playing a big factor there means they do their best to work around it, as inconvenient as it is.
Yeah, I believe it's December 14th and 15th, if I am correct, that the final round at Chang International Circuit in December will take place. So a nice rest for the drivers here after dealing with the humidity of Sepang. Final car comes into the pits, and our 4 finishers from this race will organise themselves nicely at the start of pit lane. You can tell, of course, that Hamilton's quite happy with his performances this weekend, just enjoying a nice sip of water after some tough going in that Mustang, trying to chase down a Carapong.
Yeah, he did. And speaking of that, man, he gets to have himself photographed with the #1 position board. Certainly a well-deserved thing. And indeed, as you were right, it'll be Saturday the 14th and Sunday the 15th of December this year. There will be additional sessions of practice for drivers on Friday the 13th, but that's when we'll be broadcasting on those Saturday and Sunday dates to round out the season here in 2024 for the Thailand Super Series, supported by B-Quik, EST Kowa, Idemitsu, and many others, just to say a few. Of course, Hankook Tyre. Well, actually, it's probably the big one that we see here, of course, on the regular with the coverage, and then the various partners that otherwise make this series entirely possible. Good to see also high spirits there from Chemi Dormas by the looks of things there, celebrating or congratulating Karapong there for another race win in the season. And yeah, I believe that there, Reese, might be all we have, as it looks like already celebrating there down in the pit lane. But good to have you here for this one, Reese, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this weekend across our 2 days of coverage here from Petronas Sepang International Circuit for the Super Series by B-Quik, the Supercar GT3, GT4, GTM and GTC categories, all racing this weekend. And what we might do is listen in here real quick, because I think this might be... It is in English. Well, actually, I'll be quiet. We'll listen here to Chemi Dormas for 3rd place.
Great job all together. Really good job. Car can run and we can race. I have nothing to say. Thanks to them. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Man, a few words, Chemi Dormas, but I suppose you don't need to say much more than that. It was a good run from him in there in race 2.
Indeed, it was. Fingers crossed. We might also hear from Damien Hamilton as well, and that'll be in English, given it Damien in it. Indeed, looks like we are going to have a quick chat with Damien here, so it'll be good to hear what his thoughts on race 2 here this weekend for him.
Sepang, first time. It's interesting every time, very different race to yesterday. Lots of different things going on. Yeah, a surprise every time.
Do you think to say Buriram final race?
Can't wait for Buriram. Going back to a track that I've been to will be fantastic. It's a great crowd there, a lot of support for the Ford CRE, Lanatech Liquid Moly Racing team, so it'd be really good to get out there and then have the last round of the championship.
Okay, see you, Buriram.
See you, Buriram. Thank you. Thank you.
Fascinating insight there, Reece. Actually, first time for Damien here at Sepang, and certainly not too far off the pace, despite his unfamiliarity with the circuit. I do believe for a Karapong, unfortunately, this will be in ties, so unfortunately can't make too much information out of this one here. So with that, Reece, I think, yeah, big thank you for joining us here this evening for this TSS Supercar GTC race, and a big thank you to everyone watching us with Thailand Super Series socials and speedcafe.com for this English language presentation of the B-Quik Thailand Super Series for 2024 races, well, 7 and 8 from Sepang, or 5 and 6 in the case of Supercar GTC. My name is Danny Amon, and Reece Gardner here alongside me this evening, and Scott Rankin earlier today. To see our official race results at this time on screen for you there. Our 4 finishes, our 1 retirement of Manuel Rafael Caceres, unfortunately there, but congratulations to Rakarapon Akinirot for another sweep of a weekend here in Supercar GTC from Sepang, and to our other winners in the GT3, GTM and GT4 categories. Well, quick highlights to wrap us up here, it would seem, and what was good to see was that Nissan GTR for a moment there, getting a chance to jump to the race lead with a good launch from Manuel Caceres. Unfortunately, it just didn't last long here, Reece. Actually, I'll let you do the final notes as you saw here from this race highlights. It was good racing on lap 1, that was for sure.
Oh yeah, certainly. The battle for second was magnificent, seeing Hamilton running a little bit deep there at the hairpin, but it all went wrong on lap 2, and we lost the number 95, and we saw the anguish there for Caceres as he had a magnificent run going, and it ultimately came to nothing. So he'll have to wait a while for his next potential result at Buriram in December. But there was nothing to stop a Karapong at the front of the field in the Toyota Supra. Absolutely magnificent weekend from him.
Indeed, it was. Did back off on the final lap, so the margin came back to 4.1 seconds, but that's the advantage of being able to bring it home at your own leisure. Well, folks, with those final highlights of the weekend, I do believe we'll call a close there, and thank you all very much for joining us, whether it's been with Thailand Super Series on their YouTube or Facebook page, or joining us with speedcafe.com on their social media channels as well. It'll be Saturday the 14th of December 2024. We will return for the final weekend from Buriram at the Chang International Circuit. Until then, folks, stay safe, be well. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you for the final weekend in December of the B-Quik Thailand Super Series in 2024.